One Piece chapter 1136, and of course everyone is interested by what Jarul is saying regarding there being two potential Nikas before Luffy. Now, to me, I know that's very interesting, so on and so forth, but to me, the thing that really stood out actually was just a one tiny little sentence that I really want to start discussing before I hop into anything else, and that sentence really is just Jarul, Beardfall, saying something along the lines of Loki is just trying to reenact Nika by killing the previous king, and immediately in my mind, like, you know, alarm bells went off. Like, well, what do you mean by that? Like, what's going on here? What do you mean he's trying to? I'll get you the exact quote as said by TCB, and that's basically saying. Loki was the same. I believe his motive for Harold's murder was his attempt to follow in Nika's footsteps. To me, immediately, alarm bells went off. I'm just like, okay, what do you mean by that? Like, who did Nika supposedly kill? And are we talking about the first Nika or the second Nika? So now we're already in a, you know, we're talking about destructions of the world, so to speak, and they don't know whether it's, you know, destruction or salvation, so on and so forth. Ultimately, I think it will come down. I've got my own theories, but I won't get into them too much because, again, those are just baseless theories at this point without too much evidence. But I think ultimately what it will come down to is, as everyone already knows, I guess, the destruction of the Red Line. Now, here's something that I find very, very interesting. Throughout this whole chapter, throughout, you know, all these stories that are being told by Beardfall, two things that I find very interesting. One, Vegapunk and Robin are not there. Vegapunk and Robin are not there. They're not here to discuss. They're not here to talk. And so immediately I'm thinking to myself, if Vegapunk was there, because they're currently at the library, if Vegapunk was there, he'll be able to say, oh, you know what, no, that boy over there, Luffy, yeah, he's Nika. Like, immediately, you know, and everyone would believe because that's Vegapunk that's saying that. So immediately, that's something that came to my mind. Second thing is, Robin isn't there. And the reason, and you could, again, same extension, Vegapunk as well, but the reason why that's to me so very important is because, you know, Beardfall, he goes on about the Harley texts, and, you know, I've all been destroyed twice. No one can say for sure which translation is accurate, and this is the result, according to the Harley text. What are the Harley texts? Like, straight up, just what are the Harley texts? Because what I'm thinking is, let Robin or Vegapunk have a gander at it. Let them have a look at it. Because maybe they could find out more. Maybe there is more to it that you guys aren't able to grasp fully. And so, like, that's why Robin and Vegapunk not being there is sort of, in my opinion, important twofold. One, because Vegapunk could just say, you know what, that boy over there, he is Nika. And two, you know, maybe there's more to these Harley texts that we don't know. You know, same thing like the poneglyphs. Maybe the Harley texts are the original texts, the original poneglyphs per se, and then the poneglyphs sort of just inspired that per se. Now, one thing that I do find very interesting is, and it's something that's been on my mind for a long time. Now, granted, I haven't made videos in a long time. Let's change that this year. But one thing that I also find very interesting is Roger. Where does Roger's group fit in all of this? And the reason why I bring this up is because there's been something that's been on my mind for a very, very long time. Even before Vegapunk's speech, why did they not say anything? Like, why did the Roger Pirates not say anything? And you get the whole speech from, like, you know, Rayleigh's, you know, at the end of that one chapter where he's just like, oh, don't ruin the fun for the young kids. But to me, I'm just thinking, F them kids. Like, straight up, F them kids. If the world is at stake, why are you not saying anything? You don't need to be a hero. That doesn't make you a hero. It just... warning the world that a meteorite is coming does not make you a hero. Stopping it is what makes you a hero. So if the argument is, don't ruin the fun or so on and so forth, you're not doing that, all right? And I thought, I've been thinking long and hard about this, and I think I might have come to my own conclusion right now. And again, it's my own conclusion, so it's based off chapter 1136. It's my own conclusion. There is no real basis behind it, but it's just my thoughts right now. And those are, what if it takes Nika specifically? Like, nobody else can do it besides Nika, to get rid of this impending doom. And in that case, maybe there is, again, I don't like prophecy. I don't like prophecy in shows at all. Because prophecy is a fickle thing. It's a very fickle thing. It can go the right way and it can go the complete wrong way. Some shows handle it very well. I think some shows get back. Immediately, because I've been watching those two shows, or rather reading those two shows recently, prophecy being done in a good way, I think, is Game of Thrones, or I should rather say A Song of Ice and Fire, where you don't even know whether prophecy is a real thing. It could be, but it could also all be BS. Things can just happen. Maybe things are being influenced by someone else. And then you've got prophecy, in my opinion, being portrayed quite badly. Would be something like Naruto. Okay, let's hope it works this time. But yeah, another thing that immediately comes to my mind really is maybe it has to be an unforced prophecy. So you can't force Nika to appear. He has to appear naturally. Maybe that's what's going on. But again, it also brings the question, what has Emo been doing all this time? Because if you see a rubber boy, right? Why exactly aren't you acting? Now, you could make the argument that maybe the first great evil, so to speak, was the sea serpent. I think it was chapter 1 that where Shanks essentially describes it as that, or something like, oh yeah, devil fruits come from the sea serpent or whatever. And maybe that was the great evil, the original Nika beat. Then chapter 2 was Joy Boy and Emu. Then naturally that would lead to chapter 3, which I think would be Luffy and Blackbeard. I think Blackbeard is the ultimate antagonist of this show. I think he is the main villain. I think Emo is sort of just a remnant from a time's past, and he will ultimately lead into the next step, which is Blackbeard. So we'll see how that all pans out. They're all going towards Loki. Now, I think she lost aura. I'll be honest, I think she's lost a lot of aura. I thought she looked really cool. I thought her design was really great. And then you see Gunko's design here, and it's just you kind of lost a little bit of aura points here. Now, I think people have already speculated, and Oda's also been very clever with hiding Shanks, Pranks' face, or Shunks' face, or whatever you want to call him. Because even the text bubble is over his right side, and you can't ever see left side. Obviously being very clever. We all know what's going on here. But what I find very interesting is obviously that a lot of people have already made the connection between the Holy Knights and potentially the children from Big Mom's story. To me, that makes a ton of sense, because I always thought Big Mom has to come back. I think to me that just makes logical sense, because I think her narrative story isn't over yet, although I think her personal story might be over. And what I mean by that is essentially that her narrative story, her whole existence was essentially being abandoned by her parents, then finding a family, then having a family, even forcefully. And then towards the end of Wano, when she was defeated, it was her being left alone again, essentially abandoned by her homies, which are a personification of herself, but you could say that's her family, So her story is sort of come full circle, where she was initially abandoned, and then at the end of her story, she was abandoned again. So that makes sense, but I think from a narrative perspective, it's not quite full circle. And the reason why I don't think it's quite full circle is because she never found out what happened to Mother Caramel. Now, I don't think that by itself, I don't think that aspect, on its face value, is going to change much. I don't think that's the end all and be all. But I think her, you add the aspects of the Giants knowing about it, You know, her not knowing about it, Mother Carmel knowing about it, and then also the children of the House of the Lamb, you know, disappearing at the same time. I think there's too much that's left open that I think, quite frankly, I think Big Mom has been mishandled throughout her entire story, and I'm not a writer myself, sort of, but I'm not a proficient writer myself. But I think Oda is too good of a writer to leave a sloppy. I don't want to say to make it a sloppy ending to Big Mom's story, because I think her whole arc has been quite sloppy, if I'm being honest. I think like her arc has been one of the most mishandled ones. And when I say her arc, I don't mean Whole Cake Island. I mean like her character arc. But I think she has to come back. I don't think maybe as an enemy. I think that a lot of people are speculating her to come back as like an enemy, like, you know, or Luffy's gonna beat her down or something. I don't think that needs to be the case. I don't think I think she can be quite neutral. Here's why I actually think is going to happen, and this all depends on how long Elbaf, of course, is. But we know that Beppo is swimming somewhere with Law, and we know that Kid was defeated on the shores of Elbaf. I think what we could see is a reunion of those two. You know, I don't think Kid is dead. I know people do. I don't think Kid is dead. I think, you know, he'll land up. You know, he'll wash up on the shores of Elbaf, and I think same with Law. Actually, I think both of them will wash up on the shores of Elbaf, and I think it would make sense that Big Mom actually arrives there as well. Again, I don't think it has to be as an ultimate antagonist. I don't think she needs to be a villain of this arc per se, but I do think she has to be in the arc. Maybe Big Mom, because I don't know how long the story is. That's my issue. I like if I thought the story was still going on for another 5 to 10 years, you know, I would say this all, you know, it has to happen. But Oda keeps reiterating 5 years, and he said 5 years like 4 years ago. So clearly he was lying, and he said, you know, he's been wrong with his time frames multiple times, but he's clearly gearing up towards the end. Regardless of his time frame, he clearly thinks, okay, we are at the end. And if he thinks that we are at the end, I simply can't think that Elbaf will be this long. I think Elbaf will be very important, just like Egghead Island, but I can't see it being that long, because it's been an arc that Oda has been, at least that's been in his brain for years, for decades even. And so, just like Fishman Island, and just like Wano, and even just like Egghead Island, because Vegapunk has been, you know, in the works for years. Those are arcs that we've gotten like very important information in. You know, Fishman Island, we've got you know, the Fishman backstory, we've got the Noah, we've got the first time mentioning of Joy Boy. You know, there's a lot that is really there. And then you go over to Wano, and Wano's been in the works for, you know, at least you know, since Thriller back, but even before that, you know, with Monster, Ryuma, and all that. So Wano's been in the works, and we all know that, you know, it was an arc that was essentially built up towards Gear 5, and all the history that comes with Odin and Gold Roger and everything that was there. And then we go over to Egghead, and we learn so much lore and so much from Vegapunk and about the Devil Fruit, so on and so forth. So I think Wano's the same, and Wano being the oldest nation, I think everyone kind of expected us to get a lot of Nika and world lore story right now, and I think that is what we're going to be seeing in this arc. And so I don't know how action heavy this arc will be, and that I just don't know where this arc is going. But that's just my own thoughts. I thought I'd make a bit of a, you know, review, a bit of a longer one actually, just because, you know, I've not made a One Piece video in a long time, and so I just wanted to share my thoughts as we move forward. I might react to the chapters moving forward, but I don't know. I want to talk about the chapters more than I want to react to them personally, but that may change in the future. You know, maybe if once we reach a certain point where like we're getting info dumps after info dumps, those are the kind of chapters that I want to react to, rather than just the fighting ones, or like the more downturn ones, which I think this one is. It's still not, you know, we're still not there yet. To me, the most interesting character by far of this arc is Loki, because I want to know what Loki knows. You know, obviously the giants, they have a lot of lore. They all believe Nika in all unique ways, but I want to know what Loki knows. Like what does, not rather what he knows, but what he believes. Because if you were to see Gear 5, if the so again, this kind of goes back to like, I don't think Gear 5 matters that much. Yeah, I don't think if the Giants saw Gear 5, they would say, oh, you know what, that's Nika. And the reason why I don't think that's because we've already seen the Giants see Gear 5. You know, you've had Dorian Brogy see a Gear 5. And then when like Nika, it's sort of strange because they were like, oh, Sun God, but they never called him Nika. So where did they get that notion of like, oh, you know what, he's that, when none of the other Giants think that Luffy's that? So like, that's another great question, you know? Shanks maybe? Is that what? Again, there's a lot that we can speculate and there's a lot that we could theorize on, but hey, we'll have to find out more. We'll have to find out more, ladies and gentlemen, but I'll see you all in the next one, everyone. Until then, have a good one. Peace out and